Hey, this is Kay, and this is Speak Up, Don't Shut Up, HD Sex. And today I'm here with Phil,
Howdy, everybody.
and we're going to interview Sharon.
Hey, y'all.
And today we're going to talk about Help4HD nonprofit organization and how they can help you and what they do and what Sharon does. So, Sharon, how are you involved with Help4HD? What do you do?
I work as a patient advocate. Right now, the main thing that I'm doing is facilitating a support group that is for caregivers only once a week on Tuesdays from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We didn't do it this week, and we're not doing it this coming Tuesday because I'm in the middle of moving, but we'll resume on July 7th. And so anyone who is not HD positive or not at risk for HD and is also a caregiver is welcome to join, and I can send the meeting ID and the password to anybody who's interested in being a part of that.
Yes, you all should go because I've been to the support meetings online and they are awesome and they help me vent and talk to people that understand. So you all should definitely join.
That sounds great.
It has been. It really has. And I've been part of groups that are all inclusive, and I've been part of groups that are separated out according to whatever you identify as, whether it's a caregiver or somebody at risk or somebody who's HD positive. And there's a lot of value in all of those different kinds of groups. It's not that any one is better than another. It's just according to whatever meet your needs best at the time.
Yes.
So, but before I did this, I got started with Help4HD, doing writing and editing. And then my role kind of evolved from that, and I joined the executive board as executive secretary and director of education. And then I took a leave of absence about a year ago because I had a whole lot of things going on, like my husband had triple heart bypass, and we got hit by a Category 5 hurricane, and I had surgery on my hand, and just it got to be more than I could say grace over, and I didn't feel like I was given 100%. So I took a leave of absence, and Vicki Owen very graciously stepped into my spot. And when my leave of absence was over on May 1st, I decided that it really was best to just continue in the role I'm in now.
Well, I'm so proud of you, Sharon. Thank you for everything you do. You've done a lot and you still do a lot.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Wow, you've had so much stuff happen to you, and yet you're still fighting back and doing a wonderful job as advocacy too.
Well, thank you. It's kind of my therapy. When you're dealing with something that you really can't do anything about, you have to figure out ways to cope with it, and that's working at being an advocate has always been my way of coping.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I look up to you and I get, a lot of pointers admiring everything you do because I'm just starting my advocacy. You know, it's been about 2 years now, so you know, you do a great job.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this started for me in 1983.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you want to tell us about how you're familiar with Huntington's disease? Your history?
Yeah, sure. I got married in 1983 to a man that I had just fallen head over heels in love with. His name was Paul, and I knew that he was at risk for Huntington's, but I really didn't know anything about Huntington's other than that it caused chorea, which, of course, I know now is just not an accurate description of the disease at all. But at the time, that was all that I knew about it. And I thought, you know, if I was in love with somebody who had cancer, would I turn my back on them just because they had cancer? And of course, my answer to that was no. And so Paul and I got married, me knowing that he was at risk. And we decided not to have kids because we knew that if it turned out that he had Huntington's, then there would be a 50-50 chance that any kids that we had would have Huntington's. And we were living in Louisiana, and he was working on oil rigs. And he had gotten a copy of the New Orleans Times-Picayune, and in it was a report from the Ochsner Clinic, like one of those little magazine insert things. And he brought it home, and he was so excited. He said that there was a new procedure called chorionic villi sampling that could determine if a fetus had a disease or not. And it listed several diseases that it could test for, and one of the diseases was Huntington's. And
oh, wow.
yeah.
Incredible.
So this was in 84, late 1984. And so we talked it over and, you know, talked about what the implications would be if I got pregnant and we had the test and the fetus tested positive. Well, then that would mean that Paul had it, and was he ready to know whether he had it? Because, of course, this was in the days before the predictive test even existed. And if we found out the fetus was positive, would we want to terminate the pregnancy, or would we have a child that was going to have Huntington's? And so we had talked through everything. And so I got pregnant pretty quickly and called the Ochsner Clinic, and they said, we're so sorry, but that report was erroneous. There is no test for Huntington's.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's terrible. That's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, horrible.
So at that point, we decided, well, we'll take a leap of faith and see how it works out. And then when my son was in high school, he started having some problems, mostly with taking tests. And I had him evaluated at the Florida State University Psychology Center, and they tested and they showed that he was having a hard time moving things from short-term to long-term memory. And that was why he was having trouble with tests. And he started having problems with sleep disturbance. But it never crossed my mind that it was Huntington's. And then when he was 21, he had a psychotic break. And we spent the next several years trying to get a diagnosis. And we finally got a diagnosis when he was 24. And the diagnosis was retroactive to when he was 21. And
what year was this, Sharon?
That was, let's see, 2006 would be when it started.
Mm-hmm.
2009 is when we got the diagnosis. But then it was another, it wasn't until 2014 that we got him stabilized. He had a lot of psychiatric and behavioral and cognitive problems, and drug and alcohol abuse made that even worse. And he would take his medicine and then he wouldn't take his medicine. And if he was taking his medicine and he was drinking and using other drugs, then that would counteract the medicine. And so it was just a constant struggle and just a real roller coaster. Hospitalizations, being Baker acted in and out of the hospital, did several rehabs and dual diagnosis centers, and finally in May of 2013 I came home to find him unconscious in the backyard, and he had tried to kill himself. And
oh no.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Oh, so sorry.
Yeah, but that was a real turning point, because this time he went into the hospital and they didn't treat it like a revolving door. They actually kept him until they found long-term treatment for him. And so he was in the hospital for a year. And when he came out of the hospital, it was under the supervision of something that we have in Florida called FACT, which stands for Florida Assertive Community Training. And it's a community mental health program. And I cannot say enough good things about this program. He was able to move back home with me, and he would see their psychiatrist once a week. They would send a social worker out to see him every single day. They would bring his meds to him every single day.
Oh my goodness.
That's good care.
He
Wow.
went to group therapy. I think he started out 3 times a week. And so there was just a lot of support there. And, they eventually tapered it down. So it's been 6 years now, almost 6 years. And he sees the psychiatrist once a month. They bring him his meds once a month, and he has a social worker that checks in with him at least once a week. So we've still got just amazing support, and they handle all of his prescriptions, all his meds, everything.
Wow, that's really good care.
Yeah, that's a blessing you found it.
Yeah, it's incredible care.
Now, Sharon, during this time when your son was, going through all of these episodes and different symptoms and all of that. Did you guys ever talk about, maybe Paul should be tested, or, during that time?
By the time Randy was diagnosed, Paul had passed away.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Randy got tested in January of 2004 and got his results in February and found out that he had a CAG repeat of 45. He was 18 at the time, and he said he didn't want anybody to tell his daddy. He didn't want his daddy to worry about him. He didn't want him to know that he had tested positive. And so everybody respected that. And then in the fall of 2004, Hurricane Ivan hit around the Pensacola area of Florida. And by then, Paul was in a nursing home in Milton, which is just across the bay east of Pensacola, about 30 miles east. And they had evacuated the nursing home, but they didn't evacuate it far enough inland. The hurricane came in a lot farther than they expected it to. And the power at the nursing home went out. He got pneumonia. They took him by ambulance to a hospital where they gave him medicine and sent him back to the temporary home that was operating without power. He got worse. They took him back to the hospital, and he passed away there on October 1st of 2004.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, that's terrible. That was like very horrible that you had to go through that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And in 2003, Paul's younger brother, the one that was the same age as me, committed suicide. And in 2006, his youngest brother, who was 45 at the time, and started symptoms really early, died on Christmas Eve of 2006. So it was just kind of bam, bam, bam.
Well, I'm sorry you have to see Huntington's like that. I wish there was a cure right now.
Well, it's been my motivation to do everything that I can to make sure that nobody has to go through the struggles that we've been through. I had to learn how to navigate the mental health system, and that was a nightmare.
Yes, and everything you do with Help4HD, your own advocacy, and just everything you do personally for HD, is a blessing for everybody. You're great. Randy should be so proud of you.
Yeah, it is. So many tragedies, and you're just still so positive. You're an example for all of us.
Well, thank you. But I think I was just blessed with kind of a Pollyanna attitude from the time I was born. I'm just always a glasses half full kind of person, and always have been. That doesn't mean it hasn't been hard. I take antidepressants and have ever since Paul was diagnosed. I've been in therapy, and I continue to go back to therapy when I feel like I need a tune-up. And support groups, all of those things are huge.
Yeah, those are all good advice to everybody too.
Sharon always gives me the best advice. If I ever need someone to talk to, Sharon will pick the phone up. She'll message me because I don't know what to do with Huntington's disease most of the time because I'm new at it. And her advice and what to do, the resources, and You help me out so much. Like, even one person is such a big step to help, and you're helping many.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm a big believer that in this life we have to pay it forward.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of people who helped me. Pat and Steve Wolf and Marsha Miller were some of the people, Jackie Harrison. Those are people who really helped me when I was starting down this road with Randy. I didn't have anything with Paul. I didn't have any kind of support with Paul, absolutely none whatsoever. And when I started down this road with Randy, those were people that I got support from. And Sue Wright over in England, Carmen Leal, who lived in Hawaii at the time. And these were all people who helped guide me and who gave me a lot of really good advice. And so I just tried to pay that forward.
Yes, you have a lot of experience and strength, because it's hard.
It is hard. It's hard for the person who has HD, and it's hard for the caregiver, and it's hard for other family members. It just is. And I've put some of what I've learned into publications. In one of, I started out working on the Huntington's Post, which is Help4HD's online newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And then Melissa Biliardi, who was the founder of Help4HD and at the time was the president and CEO, and Katie Jackson approached me about doing a book. And so we brainstormed a list of names of people who had really compelling stories to tell about their journey with HD, whether it was somebody who had HD or somebody who was a caregiver or, whatever. And so we came up with 12 people who wrote their stories, and I edited them and formatted them, and then we got Sarah Foster's husband, Randy Foster, who's a journalist and an editor. We got him to create the book cover for us, and then we put the book together and we put it out on what's now it's the Amazon publishing platform. And that was very well received. And
what's the name of the book?
It's called Life Interrupted, and that was volume 1. And Jimmy Pollard wrote the afterword for us, and just did a fabulous job. And then a couple of years later, I told Katie, I'm probably going to be really mad at myself for saying this, but I think it's time to do a second volume. And so we did. So there's also a volume 2, Life Interrupted volume 2. And then Jenny Grimm, who had cared for her mother-in-law and was caring for her ex-husband, always did something for the month of May for HD Awareness Month. And she would write like a daily, almost like a daily devotional kind of thing. And so I asked her about putting those together in a book for the month of May. And that year, our theme was I fight for, and, you know, it could be I fight for my husband, I fight for my son, I fight for a cure, I fight for understanding, whatever. So we did her book, and it has a reading for each day of May, and it's called I Fight for Understanding. And then
What a neat name.
yeah, and she did just a wonderful job, and all I did was edit it. She did all the writing and everything. And then she decided that she wanted to do a book about JHD, and so she and I did that together outside of Help4HD, because that was during my leave of absence. And I wish that I could think of the name of it is What's Wrong with Emma. And it's a book for children about understanding when a child has JHD. And she got somebody to illustrate it, and it's written just on a level of understanding for a young child. So, like for somebody who has a classmate who has JHD, so that they can understand the disease and how they can support their friend.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Tell me more. What else have y'all done? Keep going.
Well, and then I did one more book. I took a bunch of columns that I had written for the online newspaper, and I put them together in a book. And that one's also published through Amazon.
Wow, that's incredible.
And that one's called well, I am so tired I can't even think of the names of things right now, but hang on, it'll come to me.
Yeah, I wrote little notes so I don't forget things.
What I've learned as a caregiver.
Yes.
That's the name of it. What I've learned as a caregiver.
I need that.
Understanding Huntington's disease.
I'm impressed.
Well, thank you. And then one of the things that I'm super proud of that we've done at Help4HD, I don't know if y'all remember, and Kay, this was actually before you knew about HD, I think. There was a young man in West Virginia named Jeffrey Bain who was stopped by the cops because somebody said he looked drunk. He was taking his kids to the park, and these 4 police officers jumped on him and beat him up. And
I can believe it.
you know, he had chorea, so they thought he was resisting arrest, and he ended up being beaten pretty badly. And so we decided,
Horrible.
Francis Saldana found out that there was an International Association Chiefs of Police meeting coming to Orlando in a month. And so we approached HDSA and asked if they would pay for a booth, and we would go to the booth and educate police chiefs that came by. And HDSA said they couldn't do it, and they didn't think that was a good approach anyway. So we got busy and we developed a law enforcement education program. And then Frances and Jeannie Grunberg and her husband, and Vicki Owen and her husband, and Randy and I went to Orlando, and we educated about 300 police chiefs and officers and gave them materials. And since then, we've revised it and made it better, and it's available to anyone who asks for it. And Vicki Owen handles that. We send out the materials on flash drives. And before COVID, we also continued to go to different police departments and do trainings. So.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's the LEAP program, Law Enforcement Education Program.
That's right. That's right. And we've gone to police chief conventions in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and Louisiana, California, and then we sent the flash drive out to law enforcement offices all over the country.
You all sent me one before.
Oh, good, good.
When I first started, that's what I started doing too. And you all were the first people. Like I think it was maybe Vicki Owens was one of the first people I ever talked to that had it sent to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was incredible. And I have the LEAP program also in the files in Help for Huntington's disease. You can look at that. And then there's a video too, posted on the site. And there you can look at that.
Yeah. It's also available on our Help4HD site, which is www.help4hd.org. Under resources, you can find and download the LEAP program.
Yep, that's where I found them.
Thanks for the reference.
You're welcome.
I think that's an incredible, great program that we definitely need, especially this time.
Yes.
So that's great. It's going to, help police brutality, so that's great. What about the first responders? I think there's a first responders for sure too.
Yes, that's the one that we worked on right before I took my leave of absence. We finished that up. It's the same type of program, but it's for EMTs and other first responders, and it approaches it more from a medical standpoint than from a law enforcement standpoint. And that's also available on our website.
There's also
under the resources. And then we have several brochures that are available. And Kay, I've seen that you've posted some of those on Hope for Huntington's.
Oh yeah, you all had some great resources. You had find your clinical trial here on resources.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. There's a Help for HD TV YouTube talk show.
Right. Right.
What is that one brochure I'm trying to think of? I just posted how to keep your house safe with Huntington's disease brochure.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's very helpful.
Mm-hmm. It's just little things that you might not even think about.
Yeah, like there's JHD, and they also have some a relief fund where they would help people with $100 for their foods or needs. They helped my best friend out during the crisis, the virus crisis, and so that was very kind. They also have helped my best friend out during Christmas time. I don't know the program to that, but they gave her $100 for her kids, or maybe, but she spent them.
We did.
For Christmas.
We started that program in Paul's memory because he always wanted to be able to provide Christmas for Randy when he was little. And that was just such a big thing for him. So that's the Paul Thomason Christmas for Kids program.
Yeah,
I may not have the name exactly right, but that's it. And we send out gift cards to parents
That's so neat, Sharon.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was. It was incredible. I was so happy for her, my best friend who, received these blessings. So thank you.
And I didn't realize it was linked to Paul either. That makes it even neater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then we also have a program that we open at Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Called Help for the Holidays, and we send out a gift card to help people buy food for their holiday meals. And then, like you said, we've got the relief fund, which operates year-round, but it's really dependent on what kind of donations we have gotten to it and what kind of fundraisers we've been able to do as to how many people we're able to help. But we help people with it might be a utility bill, or it might be paying for medication, or it might be paying their phone bill, or, different things like that.
I try to keep up with y'all.
Yeah.
Programs, and y'all help out so much. So it's incredible.
We try.
Really.
It's hard finding the funding for everything that you want to do.
Yeah, I got so many big dreams and ideas, but we gotta have more money.
Yeah. And we've done things like softball tournaments and golf tournaments, and
I think y'all done a lot. You've been doing this for how long?
Gosh, 7 years, I guess.
Okay, that's a long time.
I think. I'm not positive that's how long. I knew you'd ask me something I didn't remember.
I'm doing good then. Well,
but as you can imagine, COVID has cut down on our ability to do any kind of fundraisers. So
yeah, that's true.
Everything is everything's hurting right now.
Yeah, it's a bad time. The world's going a little crazy right now in 2020.
Yep. But I also wanted to tell y'all one of the things that we've done, because I know you this is something y'all just started doing, was trying to create a registry for juvenile Huntington's disease. And we actually held the first ever walk to raise money for juvenile Huntington's disease, and we raised about $25,000 at that walk.
Oh my gosh, that's so.
And that went to Jan Nolta's lab at UC Davis, where she has a guy in her lab, Dr. Kyle Fink, who is working on finding a cure for juvenile Huntington's disease. And so this money went to that. And anytime we do fundraisers, anytime anybody donates, 100% of the net proceeds goes to wherever you want it to go. So let's say you donate money and you want it to go to the relief fund. That's what it goes to. If you donate money and you want it to go to the LEAP program, that's where it goes. If you donate money and you want it to go to the JHD research, that's where it goes to. You get to decide where your money goes.
Great. That's awesome.
And I think that's what makes us really different from any other organization.
You all did great, like beautifully. It's all just awesome. It's such a blessing. So,
well,
worrying.
Another thing that makes us different, I think, is that everybody who is on the board has a personal connection to Huntington's.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so it's not just these random people that are doing it as a job.
Yeah, that's true. You're doing it out of the kindness of your heart, but you all have got so far. Great. I also know that there's like also a research for HD resource on there where you can look up research. I wrote this down when I was looking at the website last night. Y'all have Help for HD promotes research, so you have stuff about JHD on the site. Y'all even have the story where y'all raise money in the walk. And you have documentaries of JHD families, and it was a winner of the 19 award. That's great to know. Let's see, and it says, and the research went out to UC Davis College. So you'll study with it, huh? That's awesome.
That's right. And we've also helped support the Pagnapolis lab at University of Iowa, where she's done HD kids and JHD kids research. And so we've helped support that as well.
Okay, that's great. And it goes on. Y'all even have events coming up. I definitely want to tell them about the events. I don't want to forget that. July 1st, if I'm correct, it is the interview with Matthew. I don't know.
That sounds right. There's a radio show every week on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. The radio show, Lauren Holder is in charge of the radio show, and she lines up the guests to be interviewed. And sometimes she does the interview, sometimes Katie does the interview. I used to do some of the interviews. Sometimes Katrina does the interviews, Katrina Hamill, who's the vice president. So, yeah, that happens every Wednesday, and we've got, I guess, between 350 and 400 radio shows in the archives now.
Wow.
And all you have to do is go to Blog Talk Radio and look up Help for HD, and it'll pull up all of the shows.
Yes, and this one's July 1st at 1 p.m. And it's Matt who's in phase 1 and 2 trial. He's the CEO of, what's the name of that trial?
He's with HDYO.
Okay.
Maddie Ellison.
Yes, on July 1st. Yep.
Yep. He's one of the people that started HDYO, which is Huntington's Disease Youth Organization, and it's an international organization. And we work closely with them also. We've had them at our symposia and our hike days, so that they can work with youth while their parents are attending the breakout sessions or the the sessions that are for the grown-ups. They work with kids. Chandler Swope is the one in the United States. She lives in Washington, D.C., and she organizes things here in the States and does an incredible job. They have an amazing website for kids of all ages, for young kids, for teenagers, for young adults. It's a great resource for anybody who's looking for something to help with how to talk to the kids about HD.
That's an important video if you have children. Definitely watch it.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. That's a tricky situation. So people with children, it's a good thing to watch.
Yes, it is. And we've also worked, oh, okay. Now I'm going to forget.
Well, there's I know there's the Help for HD HIPE.
Oh, yes. The hype days.
Yes.
Those are education days that we bring to different parts of the United States. And what makes them a little bit different from other types of conventions or whatever is that we don't charge anything. Attendance is completely free. We include breakfast and lunch and an afternoon snack.
Awesome.
And we also have scholarships to pay for transportation or hotel rooms. Sometimes both. It depends on what's in the budget, what kind of funding we have. And we'll spend part of the day listening to different speakers, different guest speakers, and then we'll have a HYPE panel, and HYPE stands for Highly Interactive Participant Education. And when we have the HYPE panel, we have professionals that might be a neurologist, a psychiatrist, a social worker, just as an example. And then people write down questions for the panel anonymously so that nobody has to be embarrassed about the questions that they're asking, and they don't have to worry about, embarrassing their loved ones or whatever. And then all those questions are turned in, and we take turns reading those. Usually Katie and Katrina read the questions to the panel, and the panel answers those questions.
That is so cool. And that's at 9 a.m. Saturday, July 11th.
Very cool.
Second.
Yeah, the thing on July 11th is going to focus on genetic testing.
Yes.
And then in October, we have our symposium, and it was supposed to be live in Orlando, but because of COVID, it's going to be virtual. And we're going to have a HYPE panel of experts, but we're also going to have a panel of caregivers.
Okay, that's awesome. Wow.
So there'll be peer-to-peer support as well as asking medical experts.
Yes, because experience can tell you a lot.
Yeah, it can. A lot of times it can tell you things that the doctors can't tell you.
Yeah, really, especially with rare diseases.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also I was thinking, what else did y'all have? Y'all have the international newspaper for HD?
Yeah, that's the one that I started out working with Help4HD on. It's an online newspaper.
That's cool. Is it like daily or monthly or
no, it's not a regular thing. It's whenever there's something to be published. And sometimes it'll be a press release from like Roche Genentech or Unicure, or it might be an article that somebody has submitted. there's a whole variety of topics that have been covered. So, but yeah, it just depends on when there's something that needs to be put out there.
Can you also explain to me what this file is? I downloaded it from your site. The FDA form letter resource.
Oh, that was another really exciting thing that we did. The FDA held a PDUFA meeting in Silver Springs, Maryland, at the FDA office, where people who had an interest in Huntington's disease were invited to speak to the FDA about the concerns and needs of the community. And so we went to that and we spoke with the FDA, and there's actually a transcript of that meeting on the FDA website. I'm not sure how you get to it, but
I know you can get the form letter on the website, Help for Huntington's Disease, under Files, and you can
mm-hmm.
it yourself. It's now there as FDA form letter.
Yeah, that form letter is something that you can download and you can sign, and it's a letter that basically is asking the FDA to speed up the trials.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Like, you all are going so beyond for everything for HD.
We try to respond to the needs of the community. So, we're real active on social media, and we interact with people a lot, and we talk on the phone to a lot of community members, and we listen to what the needs are that people are expressing, and then we end up developing programs to meet those needs.
Yes, you do. Yes, you all do.
Yep, you guys are really proactive.
Help4HD.org. You got to check it out. And they have like resources where you can download a Huntington's disease document and all kinds of different things to help you.
And if you go to our site, you'll also find the TV shows and the radio shows, the Huntington's Post, which is the online newspaper, brochures. You can just find all kinds of things on our site.
Yeah, you will not be disappointed. You'll find what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have an idea, there's a button there where you can contact us and tell us what your idea is. There's also a donate button if you want to donate to the work that we're doing. And like I said, you can always specify where you want that money to go. You asked me a minute ago how long this had been in existence. It was 2010, so it's been 10 years.
Going strong, getting better too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Proud of y'all, and I definitely support you all.
Well, we appreciate your support so much.
Thank you. And I want to help in any way I really can. So if y'all need help or something, just let me know, because I am busy with Nova, but I try my best.
Well, you're doing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You really are.
She is. And Sharon, thank you so very, very much, because we know that you're in the process of moving and you've got a million other irons in the fire. And we really appreciate you taking the time to just, share, your advocacy and your love for everyone with HD. And we are so thankful.
Well, thank you for that, Phil. I really appreciate it. I really do. That means a lot.
Yes, thank you so much for doing this. This is going to help a lot of people because, it really is helpful because once I learned it, I've been like, oh, I wish I had this. So, but thank you for sharing so much.
Well, thank you for having me on your show.
No, thank you for being here. And don't forget the online caregiver support group meeting on July 7th.
The next one, July 7th. That's right. July 7th, 5 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. So it's 4 o'clock Central. I get confused if it goes past that.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's 1 o'clock Pacific.
But for me, it's at like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Eastern time. And
it has been for me, but where I'm moving now, it's going to be 4 o'clock. So I've got to get used to that change. Yeah. I'm moving a time zone away.
Well, I hope this is a new beginning for you.
We're really hopeful that we'll all receive some housewarming tickets and invitations.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh.
Well, good night, you all. I had a great talk show with you all night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you so